Minister, by the end of 2022, 75,000 less homes will have access to high-speed broadband than was planned 12 months or 2 years ago under the National Broadband Plan. That's a full 12 months of the build of the National Broadband Plan. We're going to be behind after the first 2 years into the project. And this is going to have a significant impact on the uptake of remote working across the country and an overall impact in relation to climate emissions, particularly in rural areas.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Naughten. In addition to the challenge of the delivery of the NBP due to the COVID-19 pandemic, NBI has faced a range of other challenges due to the sheer scale and complexity of rolling out fibre to the home in a rural environment. And these include significant tree trimming to ensure cable can be placed on overhead poles, remediation of ducting that has been in place for many decades, the coordination of hundreds of contracting crews, and addressing the many issues arising week on week, which could not have been foreseen until the build crews commenced work on the ground. My department has worked closely with NBI to put in place a remedial plan under the contract, and the plan addresses delays experienced by NBI, primarily arising as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it rebaselines milestones for 2021. Work is underway to rebaseline milestones for 2022 and beyond. NBI has implemented a number of measures to help lessen the impact that these challenges have had on the rollout, including increasing the rate of pole replacement and duct remediation per month, bringing in additional NBI resources, earlier procurement of material and in the build stages, bringing in additional subcontractors. But despite the unprecedented challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, National Broadband Ireland has made steady progress on delivery of the new high-speed fibre broadband network under the National Broadband Plan, with over 30,000 premises available to order and pre-order across 11 different counties. It remains the ambition of the Government to roll out the National Broadband Plan as quickly as possible. My department continues to engage with NBI to explore the feasibility of accelerating aspects of the NBP rollout to establish the possibility of bringing forward premises which are in years 6 and 7 to the current plan to an earlier date. However, the primary focus must be on addressing the delays which have arisen and ensuring that the National Broadband Ireland build programme gets back on track and is building momentum month on month. And I think it's good that NBI is coming in to the Oireachtas committees and being directly cross-examined so that their testimony can line up with what we're saying as well. It is essential that we make progress on the National Broadband Plan. And it's something that I work on every day. Thank you.
Minister, there's a contradiction here in what we're being told. We're told that primarily the reason for the delays in the build-out are because of COVID-19. And that just doesn't stack up. There have been ongoing delays in engagement with local authorities, with CIE, with Transport Infrastructure Ireland in terms of getting access to infrastructure. And that doesn't seem to be acknowledged by anyone. Why? Why is there a cover-up and a failure to acknowledge that? And secondly, Minister, can you answer one simple question to me? And that is, the single biggest subcontractor that National Broadband Ireland has is Air. Air have achieved their timelines in last year in 2020, in 2021, and are expected to overachieve in 2022. And they had to deal with COVID. So how can Air deliver and National Broadband Ireland aren't?
Thank you.
I think for a start that all the major fibre installers have had delays and have been affected by COVID, and I spoke to them directly about that. Obviously, NBI is a brand new company and isn't directly comparable with Air and is reliant on contractors with whom they have shorter relationships. In terms of TII and CIE and any difficulties, I heard your comments on that, and I am willing to investigate those and see what can be done to improve that situation. Through the chair, Deputy Naughten knows that COVID really did cause real problems. If you're in remote rural areas, that would not have been the case if you're installing fibre in a city or a town. If all of the B&Bs are closed down in remote parts of Cork or in Donegal, and you can't house the contractors overnight, if you're reliant on contractors from another country who can't travel because of international travel restrictions, there were real problems with the COVID, but it's not all due to COVID. Some of the issues that I outlined there are not covered by that type of force majeure, and they will be subject to penalty clauses.
Minister, any of us TDs and senators that come from rural Ireland, we were able to get accommodation right throughout the lockdown. There are hotels, restaurants and guest houses right across this country that would have thrown open their doors if they were approached in relation to it, and some of them did in relation to contractors. Local authorities can find emergency accommodation, and they would have a relationship with a lot of B&Bs around the country. So that just does not wash. I'll give you one piece of advice, Minister, and that is 2 years ago, last month, a month before the National Broadband Plan was signed, the contract was signed, the Mobile Phone and Broadband Task Force, the one agency that brought the local authorities around the table, brought all the state and semi-state agencies around the table, and where I, as a Cabinet Minister, sat at it, drove forward a lot of the bottlenecks in terms of those access issues. That needs to be re-established, and re-established immediately.
Thank you. I'm going to re-establish the task force. I agree. In the meantime, I meet regularly with MBI. I attended their last board meeting. I spent a couple of hours with their chief executive on Tuesday in Limerick, where they were doing installations there. I see that the fibre being installed both at the data centre end, and I've seen it done at the home end. I met with the chief executive of AIR earlier this week as well, and I am offering to facilitate to make sure that all of the stakeholders can work together, and to make sure, I think, that there is a role for government being in between a number of different parties who are either competing with each other or contracting from each other, to ensure that that hurdles are overcome, that regulatory changes can be made where they're needed, and just to act as an honest broker in between, and as the person who's the major customer for making sure that this project is delivered. It is one of the most important projects in the history of Ireland. It is absolutely essential that people in rural Ireland have high-speed broadband so that they can live their lives, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the project is delivered correctly and on time.
Margaret.